Hi everyone, I'm Matt Toombs and welcome to the second episode of Cheltenham Spiel, which looks to provide bite-sized punting pointers in less than 10 minutes. Today I'm looking at the relatively recent invention of what I've called the Irish Autumn Festivals, run over the last 3 weeks at Navan, Punchestown and Fairyhouse. Having seen how last season's Autumn Festival form played out at Cheltenham and had the races from the second Autumn Festivals, it looks a good time to examine what impact its creation is having on betting at the Cheltenham Festival. So to see how much the Autumn Festivals are on punters' radars, I did a poll on Twitter X and asked how many Cheltenham winners the 6 Autumn Festival cards produced last season. 54% of voters went for less than 7, 16 for 7 or 8, 11 for 9 or 10, 19% went for 12 or more. So it may surprise some of you to know that those 6 cards produced 12 Cheltenham Festival winners, 4 at Navan, 5 at Punchestown, 3 at Fairyhouse. The fact that the consensus in the poll so underestimated the Autumn Festival form suggests we can get a real edge if we can pinpoint the races at the Autumn Festivals that are going under the radar at Cheltenham. To put those 12 winners in the overall context of the Irish Challenge at Cheltenham is helpfully simple. For each of the last 3 Cheltenham Festivals, Irish trained winners have won 18 races. Subjectivity when trying to compare last season and the previous 2 because the races aren't exactly the same. But what I roughly call the equivalent races produced only 7 or 8 winners the previous 2 seasons. Now, based on a sample size of 1, the advent of the Autumn Festivals might be funneling more of the top Irish horses into running on those cards. Like any tiny sample size might easily just be statistical noise. But I think the right question is, by branding 3 consecutive weekends as festivals, is it likely to attract more of the top horses that might have run elsewhere previously? Some of the races, like the Morgiana and Hatton's Grace, haven't moved, so won't have any impact. The obvious race you'd expect to get stronger is the John Durkan, which has been moved forward 3 weeks. That's an excellent decision. Now looks an ideal starting point for the Gold Cup and also Ryanair horses, in stark contrast to the near 3¼ miles, often on deep ground, of the Betfair Chase in Britain. It's produced 4 Gold Cup winners and 3 Ryanair winners this century, 5 in the last 5 years. You have to imagine that record's going to get even stronger, especially this season, after what looked a vintage renewal. The creation of the Autumn Festivals has led to the odd new race, in particular a 2-mile 4-year-old hurdle at Fairyhouse. In the pattern, this replaces the Fishery Lane at Naas, which is now a minor conditions race for 4-year-olds. Particularly noteworthy this season as the 4-year-olds look an unusually strong crop. Nürburgring and Adawi finished 1-2 in the Galway hurdle. Burdett Road won the Greatwood, Sagino the fighting 5th. It looked a good race on Saturday, and French import Amsterdam trounced them. He could be anything. Given he's in the same ownership as Stateman and Sagino, it'll be interesting to see what path he goes this season. He's one for the notebook, and there's been plenty of money for him this week for the Champion Hurdle, following some bullish comments from Clasutton. However, I think the biggest betting angle may come from novice races at the Autumn Festivals. Most punters understandably want to see more of the novice action before striking a bet. But if the Autumn Festivals are acting as a magnet for the best novices, it may be a source of ante-post value if you can spot a potential star. Last season, 6 novices won at Cheltenham after running in the Autumn Festivals. Stella Story, Factifile, Gaelic Warrior, I Know the Way You're Thinking, Corbett's Cross and Ballyburn. In the maiden hurdles, I mentioned Wingmen in episode 1 last week after he won the 2.5 mile race at Navan that Stella Story won last year. At Punchestown, Henry Bromhead won both the maiden hurdles. The 2-mile 3 race was fought out by 3 interesting novices. Butch Cassidy, who's a half-brother to Fiona, looking to outstay Sir Manzarac, shuffle the deck 3rd. The runner-up had won the 100 grand Goff sales bumper at the Punchestown Festival. By its nature, that can produce stars or be a really weak contest for the money. 4 came clear, the other 3 haven't run yet. 3rd's well regarded, 1 is point, but the 2 who chased him home haven't run yet either. So the winner looks the classic De Bromhead horse will be a real improver, especially as he hadn't had a schooling hurdle and was novice here, but it's a watching brief on the form. In the 2-mile 5 maiden, Henry's mare, the Big Westerner, had too many guns for Cheltenham bumper, also ran Argento Boy, who was a bit keen. Well, he seemed to think a bit of the runner-up, but the fact he was ridden more conservatively than the typical Townend MO in maiden hurdle suggests he may have needed the run. Winner's half-sister to Stay Away Favourite showed plenty of pace here, quickening up before the end of the last all wrong. With Maureen under a cloud, it's 12-1 bar in the Dawn Run. And whilst I'm not betting in that race yet, I wouldn't want to be laying 33-1 about the Big Westerner. In the 2-mile maiden at Fairyhouse, in which Firefox beat Ballyburn last season, there was lots of depth, and the winner, Ballygunner Castle, did it really well. He had a rough passage, then nearly taken out by a loose horse, both 2 out and approaching the last. Willie said he'd improved a lot over the summer and suggested he's a stayer. He looks a top prospect. The third's interesting, Don't Stop the Music, who was a really impressive winner of the 2-mile 3 furlong maiden bumper at the Punchestown Festival, which has produced Monkfish, Monley and Edwolf in recent years. He needs 3 more runs to qualify for festival handicaps and one to keep an eye on. In the beginners' chases, much has rightly been discussed about Ballyburn, who won the 2-mile 3 at Punchestown that Arkle winner Gaelic Warrior took last season. It was his first go over fence. He had a solo, so he might jump quicker in a good race over 2 miles. But you want to see it before considering taking 9-4 about the Arkle. His Dan Moonstorm's been prolific at stud, and his full brothers like Noble Endeavour, who's third in the Ultramar 154, Manila Daddy, Planet Mind, they've all been 3-milers. Now, Ballyburn's obviously a top-class horse, but over what trip his future lies, best judged after another run. Be open-minded. There's also been a fair bit written about the 2-mile 4 beginners at Navan. Last year, there was a deceptive result when American Mike beat Factor Fire, and there may have been again as Better Days Ahead readily outpointed Slade Steel. Been some chat about how Slade Steel won't make a chaser. I don't see that at all based on this run. In fact, this looked a classic case of punters not focusing on a trainer's modus operandi. Henry de Bromhead takes a softly approach with his novice chasers, especially on their first start if it's over an intermediate trip. He's trained 2 Gold Cup winners and a Ryanair winner, and all of Manello, Indo, Apluto and Balco de Flo were beaten over intermediate trips on their chasing debut. Broadway runner-up Monty Star was as well last season. I'd expect Slade Steel to improve hugely for this, as Ballyburn did last year, and it'll be interesting to see what his trip is over fences. Better Days Ahead was probably a bit flattered here, but he still looks a good Broadway prospect. 16-1 looks fair enough. Perhaps the most interesting of the beginners' chases performances came from down memory lane. He'd gone off 5-2 for the future champions last Christmas, flopped, wasn't seen again, really weak in the market, which appeared to scream handicap project. But it's a perfect example of the need to see where the horses jump off when they've drifted like that before concluding. Down memory lane, jumped off at the front, made all, proved an ideal early in running play, jumping well and winning in good style for all those who chased him home do look set for handicaps. With the Clown Davis and Leopardstown 2-mile 1, Christmas Grade 1 both gone, be interesting to see where he pitches up next. He's entered in the Henry VIII at Sandown on Saturday. I'm not sure what his trip is yet, but it's worth noting his half-brother, Fringled Ike, is a useful 2-mile chaser for Jed O'Keefe. Be no surprise if down memory lane proves to be an Arkle contender. 25-1 looks quite generous. Imperi Pass was an easy winner of the extended 2-mile 5 beginners at Fairyhouse, but there was plenty to take out of it. Firstly, what was he doing running over that trip? Yeah, Willie Mullins doesn't mind running over the wrong trip in beginners, having a, if they're well, they should win a beginners anyway approach. Whilst he's won this with Monkfish, carefully selected, Sir de Shop, never run an Arkle horse in it. However, Willie does like his horses in 2 miles beginners chases to make the running. As we saw in the Irish Champion hurdle, Imperi Pass hates doing that. So maybe over this trip he could get a lead, and O'More Park did that. Paul Townend woke him up 4 out. It's often deceiving when he does that. The horses tended to be going better than you think. I wouldn't be concluding Imperi Pass is now a stayer who takes time to get going. Jumped pretty well, if a bit out to his left, and given arguably his best run last season was when 3 1/4 lengths second to State Man, the Matheson, could easily be suited by 2 miles rather than further. Been pushed out to 21 for the Arkle. Connection of it's for me and Mr. Jiff for that. So it may not be the route he's going, but it'd be a huge price if he is. So keep an eye out on the vibes. There are some juicy prices out there about these novices. If you think you've seen something special, don't be afraid to take the plunge. I suspect the autumn festivals have seen some of the best novices out. Even if you're not ready to pull the trigger yet, I think they should be a bedrock of your early novice analysis. So thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon with more Cheltenham Spiel.